Hello and welcome to Rag Class. So in today's episode, I'm going to talk about food and the impact food have on the world we live in. And it's an important topic because we all need food to live, but we also need the world to live so we can live on the world. And I'm not an expert on this, and I'm not trying to sound like an expert. I'm just trying to open up our mind to ideas and to kind of find a common middle ground where we can all agree that we need to change something, since we tend to either sit in a trench on the meat side and vegetarian side and just hating each other and stuff like that. So I'm not gonna hate on anyone. I'm not gonna say something is better than another thing. I really do try to have a neutral look at this, and I will try and cover both ecology, meat, fish, and so on. So we all need food. Some people and some countries have more food than other. And for some reason, when we actually meet someone from a different religion or culture or something like that, and they don't like the same food as we like, we can tend to be like, wait, why? You don't like this, but it's amazing. And I've even seen people get very mad because of people not wanting to eat the same. So we have to adjust and make more food so they can join in on the food. And politicians really love to use this in some of their stuff. And I have seen a lot of people when we are talking with vegetarians, people go like, "You don't eat meat, or you're so weird," and stuff like that. And it is kind of sad and bad that we do this. And I'm not trying to force anyone here to eat in a different way. I'm just trying to open our mind and then we can make up our own decisions. And I hope we all end up making the best decisions that we find available with the information we have. Like I myself have begun eating less meat and more greens in my daily diet. Uh, so I have a less impact on my CO2 print in the world we're living in. But it's all up to the different person because we all eat differently. Different cultures and religions eat differently than others. So I can't say which way is the best. I can only give the information. So I will start with farming. When we have farming, we either have a farm that is making human food or animal feed, and it is depending on what kind of farm we have overall. And it takes up a lot of room. And I actually found reports saying that if we cut meat consumption down in the world by roughly half, we will have so much spare room on the fields that we could actually make enough human food that no one would go hungry again. And the reason is kind of simple because it takes a lot of feed to actually feed up animals. So it takes a lot of room to produce all the food that the animals need so we can eat the animals. And I'm sure most of us can actually recognize this when we look at our pets and see how much feed it takes to keep them going. Then imagine you have to make a cow and you have to let it grow, and it takes a lot of food and water and space. And then we have another thing. When we have animals, they tend to produce some sort of waste, and we use that to fertilize our crops. But reports have also shown that some of that fertilization actually goes into streams and into water supplies and ends up damaging it. And they've even found dead zones in coastal areas next to farms where the farms have basically destroyed that part of the ocean, uh, combined with the chemicals used to keep pests away and make the stuff grow faster. And I know it sounds super, super bad. And for some who grew up on a farm and have worked on different farms, it's just something that is natural for us to do. It's the way it all combines into itself. Some countries, though, have put rules in on how much fertilization you can actually do and what chemicals and such effects you can use on the fields to try and combat the negative effect it can have on the climate and the earth. So that is why the research say if we use less food for animals, we will have more place to actually grow food for human. But that still leaves an impact because we still use chemicals and we still need a lot of water to make it grow. But again, we need to do this because we need to get food so we can live. Only by ecology, some will say, but that's really not also the way to go because since they don't use chemicals, they will have to use more room to grow the same amount of food as a ordinary farm will have. So it might take twice the land to grow the same amount as on a normal farm. And then again, we don't have that space because every time we have to get space, we have to take it from somewhere, and it tends to be forest, rainforest, and stuff like that. And that tend to be bad for the earth. But it's how we've done it for centuries, and it is something that we probably will keep doing because we need more and more food. And it's kind of sad when you see images of rainforest, vast amount of rainforest being chopped down so we can plant some sort of food that we want. And what can we as human beings do as consumers? Well, we can actually do a lot of stuff. One of the things is to begin to have a more open talk about GMOs. I know a lot of people will be very dissuasive about GMOs, but for years we have actually done it, not with gene modified, but where we have selectively bred the kind of product that we want. And you can see it if you go back in history and look at watermelons, carrots, and other food, where we began to select the breed we wanted and make them look a certain way and have a certain shape so they were easier to handle. And I do believe if we have some good GMOs that, let's say, make it so you don't have to use any chemicals at all, that will be a vastly improvement for the overall health of us and the world. And it goes for everything. If you say, but I only eat vegetables, I only eat green stuff, well, then again, everything you're eating has been through years selectively bred to have a better yield, to look better, to taste better. And then we have another thing we have to talk about. That is the monoculture. And monoculture is when you only select one sort of yield to sow, because if that one grain then get some sort of disease, then the entire field will die. And it can lead to massive devastation in our food supply. But enough talk about farms. Let's talk a bit about fish. There's an old saying that if you give a man a fish, he will be fed for a day. Teach a man to fish, and he's fed for life. And that makes sense. The problem is that today we can farm fish way better than we could before. And we are now seeing how we are corrupting the water with pollution and stuff like that. So we have tarnished the seas and made it harder for the sea to actually work. And when we are beginning to empty the sea of fish, it will have a big impact on our life. And it's something that a lot of countries actually have set rules to how much fish you can catch and sell and stuff like that, because they can see that we are slowly draining the ocean. Then there are some countries who still just do what they want to do, and it's hurting all of us in the end. And it's something you can see on land as well. If you have a lake and all the fish and animals in it die out, then the becomes dead, and it affects all life around it because then animals can't really use it and so on. So it has a massive impact when a lake or river or ocean dies out. But after all this depressing stuff, I actually have more depressing stuff because we now need to talk about food trends and travel time. So, avocados for once have become a food trend over the past few years, and everyone seems to be eating them all the time. And you might be like, well, this is a green thing. It's good for you and it's good for the environment, but it actually isn't because it takes a massive amount to actually grow just one avocado. It takes about 50 to 70 liters of water to just make one, and it's a lot of water to just make one piece of food. And it's not only that, but some countries now rely so much on avocado sales that they tend to not care as much about the nature and stuff like that. They actually destroy to try and make more farms, and they don't care about running the water supply in the country low because they need the income from the sale of avocados. And then we also need to have a debate at what we are buying, because if we're buying something that have to travel from one end of the world to another end of the world, it also have a massive cost on the earth and us in the end, because it have that long travel time and it pollutes a lot traveling from one end of the world to another so we can get what we want. And we have become so accustomed to getting whatever we want at basically whatever time of year that we want, because it is probably grown at some part of the world all the time. So we're just getting used to that. But we have to begin to look into buying stuff that is produced more locally. So we cut down on the travel time. And then we also help our own country by buying stuff from our own farms instead of having them transported to another country. But we can make a good debate out of this. We can make a good talk about this, but we really have to, all of us, read up a bit on all of it. Not just the side that we like, but also the side that we don't like. And then we have to really stop attacking the other side, because all it does is it makes people go into defensive mode. And when you go into defensive mode, you basically don't want to listen to the arguments the other side is making, if they're true or not. And it really is a talk we have to have so we can find a good middle ground we can work out from, where we look at how we can produce fish and farm stuff better, and if we should eat more greens and less meat and all that sort of thing. But we really have to come to agreement, all of us, so we don't destroy uh, our world, because it will be kind of sad if we destroy the world along the way. And I know this episode has been really, really sad and all bad and all stuff that can go wrong, but it's not meant to be an attack on anyone. It is made to lure you in to go like, ah, I didn't know that, and actually begin to research yourself and open your mind to go find data to educate yourself so we all can find a way. Because if we can find a way, then we can save ourselves and our future. And I really would love to have a future, not just for myself, but for kids growing up today and their kids and so on. So I hope you found this podcast interesting. And you can join me on social media on Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, Patreon, and YouTube. And I'm all on all the streaming services as well. So all I want to do now is wish you a very happy day. Bye.